Here we are again, standing at the edge of a familiar precipice, the looming threat of a government shutdown. The tension in Washington is palpable, and across the country, millions are watching, waiting, and wondering what the next few hours will bring. As midnight on October 1st draws near, the fate of federal agencies hangs in the balance. In just a matter of hours, the gears of government could grind to a halt, leaving essential services in limbo and uncertainty rippling through every corner of American life. This isn't just political theater or a distant debate in the halls of Congress. It's a crisis with real, tangible consequences for millions of Americans. From families anxiously watching the news to workers commuting to jobs that may not be there tomorrow, the impact is deeply personal. A shutdown means the gates to national parks swing shut, passport applications are left in limbo, and hundreds of thousands of federal workers face the prospect of missed paychecks. Museums close their doors, research projects are put on hold, and families across the nation are left to cope with the fallout. The standoff unfolding in Washington is a classic drama. President Trump and his Republican allies on one side, Democrats on the other. Both sides are digging in, each convinced that their position is the one that will ultimately prevail. At the heart of the deadlock are deep, seemingly irreconcilable disagreements over health care and the fundamental role of government. These aren't just policy disputes, they're battles over the very direction of the country, and neither side is willing to back down. One side insists that urgent action on healthcare must come before any funding bill is passed, arguing that the stakes are too high to wait. The other side believes that policy debates should be kept separate from the basic responsibility of keeping the government running, warning that holding funding hostage sets a dangerous precedent. As negotiations drag on late into the night, the atmosphere grows more tense. Both parties seem prepared to endure the fallout, even as the risks to ordinary Americans mount. The sense of urgency is matched only by the sense of frustration. Each shutdown chips away at public trust in government and disrupts lives in ways both big and small. Scientific research is interrupted, food safety inspections are delayed, and families are left to wonder how long the uncertainty will last. The ripple effects can be felt in classrooms, hospitals, and homes across the nation. As the clock ticks relentlessly toward midnight, the stakes have never been higher. Understanding what's at risk and why this keeps happening is more urgent than ever. The countdown is on, and the nation is holding its breath. Yesterday's White House meeting was billed as a last chance to avert disaster. President Trump, Democratic leaders Hakeem, Jeffries, and Chuckschumer, and top Republicans sat down, but left with no deal. Both sides simply restated their positions. Democrats demanded health care protections. Republicans refused to tie policy changes to a short-term funding bill. No progress, no new meeting scheduled, and the deadline looms. Democrats told reporters, significant and meaningful differences remain. Republicans blamed Democrats for holding the government hostage over policy. The core disagreement? Should funding and health care be linked or kept separate? With talks collapsed, the nation is left bracing for the consequences. At the heart of the current political standoff in Washington is a deeply personal issue for millions of Americans: healthcare. The debate isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet or abstract policy. It's about real people, real families, and their ability to access the care they need to stay healthy and secure. Specifically, the future of the Affordable Care Act, often called Obamacare, and the Medicaid program are on the line. These programs have become lifelines for many, providing coverage to those who might otherwise go without. Democrats in Congress are pushing hard for a permanent extension of the ACA's enhanced subsidies, which are set to expire soon. These subsidies help lower premiums and out-of-pocket costs for millions, making health insurance more affordable and accessible. They're also demanding a reversal of deep Medicaid cuts and the removal of new work requirements that could make it harder for vulnerable populations to qualify for coverage. Democrats argue that if these demands aren't met, millions of Americans could lose their health coverage or face skyrocketing medical costs, putting their health and financial stability at risk. For many, the stakes couldn't be higher. On the other side, Republicans see the ACA subsidies as an unnecessary government expense, arguing that they drive up the federal deficit and encourage dependency on government programs. They believe that the proposed Medicaid cuts are essential for restoring fiscal discipline and ensuring that government spending remains sustainable for future generations. Republicans insist that healthcare reforms should be debated and decided on their own merits, not as part of a last-minute deal to avoid a government shutdown. They want to separate these high-stakes negotiations from the urgent need to keep the government funded. But Democrats worry that if they agree to a clean funding bill, they'll lose their leverage to protect healthcare programs and the people who rely on them. Both sides are convinced they're fighting for what's right, whether it's fiscal responsibility or protecting access to care. This deep divide makes finding common ground incredibly difficult. The result is a bitter stalemate, with the health and well-being of millions of Americans hanging in the balance as lawmakers struggle to find a path forward. For Democrats, this is about protecting working families' health and financial security. They refuse to let ACA subsidies expire or accept Medicaid cuts and work requirements. Their strategy: make the shutdown about health care, betting the public will blame Republicans for risking coverage for millions. Democrats distrust Republican promises to negotiate later, believing this is their only moment of leverage. The party's progressive wing sees this as a test of core values. As Hakeem Jeffries put it, significant and meaningful differences remain, and Democrats won't back down. They're prepared to endure a shutdown to defend healthcare protections. Republicans argue that government funding shouldn't be held hostage to policy fights. They want a clean, short-term funding bill. No major changes, just time to negotiate. Democrats' refusal to pass this, they say, is obstruction. Underneath, Republicans are committed to shrinking government and see a shutdown as a chance to cut federal jobs and agencies. President Trump's response? Escalating the PR war, not negotiations. Republicans believe the public will blame Democrats for refusing to keep the government open. Their message? They're the pragmatic party, Democrats are the ideologues. The standoff continues, with both sides digging in. When the government shuts down, the effects are immediate, far-reaching, and deeply personal. It's not just a political standoff in Washington. It's a disruption that ripples through every community, every family, and every workplace across the country. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers suddenly find themselves furloughed, sent home without pay, or forced to work without knowing when their next paycheck will come. These are the people who keep our parks open, our airports running, and our scientific research moving forward. Park rangers, TSA agents, scientists, and so many more. Their lives are put on hold, and their families are left to worry about how to make ends meet. For families, the financial strain can be overwhelming. Bills pile up, savings dwindle, and uncertainty grows with each passing day. Essential services that many Americans rely on, like visiting national parks, getting a passport, or even receiving certain government benefits, suddenly grind to a halt, leaving people frustrated and anxious. The impact doesn't stop with federal employees. Small businesses that depend on government contracts or loans can't access the support they need to stay afloat. Scientific research is paused, sometimes losing years of progress. Public health clinics may close or reduce services, putting vulnerable communities at risk. This time, the Trump administration may use the shutdown as an opportunity to push for permanent cuts to federal jobs and programs. The political battle in Washington isn't just about budgets. It's about the future of government itself and the services it provides to millions of Americans. For some workers, what starts as a temporary furlough could become a permanent job loss. The uncertainty is devastating, as people wonder if they'll ever return to the jobs they've dedicated their lives to. The strategy is clear. Use the crisis to aggressively downsize government, especially in agencies that protect the environment and workers' rights. This could mean fewer safeguards for clean air and water, and less support for working families. The result is a climate of fear and uncertainty, not just for federal workers, but for everyone who depends on government services. People are left waiting, wondering, and worrying about what comes next. The ripple effects reach every corner of the country, from small towns where the post office is the heart of the community, to big cities where commuters and businesses rely on federal support. No one is untouched. In the end, a government shutdown is more than a political fight in Washington. It's a disruption to daily American life, affecting how we work, travel, care for our families, and plan for the future. The consequences are real, and they're felt by all of us. This isn't the first shutdown under President Trump. The 2018 to 2019 standoff lasted 35 days, the longest in U.S. history, over border wall funding. National parks closed, federal workers visited food banks, and air travel was disrupted. The economic and political costs were huge, with most Americans blaming Trump and Republicans. That shutdown ended with no wall funding, and the scars lingered. Both parties remember the fallout. Democrats feel emboldened, Republicans more determined to use a shutdown strategically. The lessons of that crisis shape today's tactics and resolve. The memory of those 35 days looms over every decision now. As the deadline nears, both parties are locked in a blame game. Democrats call this a GOP healthcare shutdown, arguing Republicans are risking coverage for millions. Republicans counter that they're acting responsibly, accusing Democrats of holding the government hostage. President Trump's social media attacks aim to energize his base and paint Democrats as out of touch. Both sides are preparing for a long fight, convinced public opinion will turn against their opponents. Meanwhile, real-world consequences mount for federal workers and the public. The damage to trust in government deepens with every passing day. With the deadline hours away, a shutdown is almost certain. No more meetings are scheduled, Congress is at an impasse. Tomorrow, agencies will close, workers will be furloughed, and services will stop. Both sides are waiting for the other to crack under public pressure. The shutdown could last days or weeks, no one knows. The key question, who will voters blame? Eventually, the pain will force a messy compromise, but until then, the country is caught in a needless crisis. The final deal will likely leave no one happy. For now, Americans are left to endure the fallout of political dysfunction.